5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello and welcome to Truth, Beer, and Podsequences. So this is a podcast where my co-hosts and I listen to all the Cincinnati-based craft beer podcasts from the previous week, and we get together at our podcast host. Today, no surprise if you followed this podcast, we are at Higher Gravity Summit Park. Thank you for hosting us, Higher Gravity Summit Park. And then what we do is we give our version of the truth of how those podcasts went. Now, hopefully there aren't too many consequences from the hosts of the other podcasts. So far, so good. And we say that because, by the way, not every recap is exactly accurate.
True.
So
it is our truth.
It's our truth. And so I am Marco. I am a taproom manager here locally, also formerly a brewer and a bartender and all those things, and maybe currently a brewer, bartender, all those things. But that other voice you heard belongs to the best co-host in Podcastlandia.
I am Julia. I am a drinker of all the craft beer in the Cincinnati area, and beer event's over, so my identity is just gone. I have nothing else to. No. I also edit the podcast, and sometimes I'm able to cobble together some fun little videos of the recap of beer event season, which I had a lot of fun putting together.
Or you might clobble things. Who knows?
I might clobble things too. You never know. Or I'm sorry, you never know.
So
that was awesome.
So this podcast, as we record it, is only a day after Christmas, and as it releases, is only 2 days before New Year's.
So happy New Year's Eve to everyone.
Happy New Year's Eve to everyone, and hopefully everyone had a great Christmas, or whatever you celebrate. Hopefully everything is happy and bright in your holiday season.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And that we would not be, and really no craft beer podcast would be a good craft beer podcast if you were not drinking beer. And
it's
here on this podcast, I want you to know we're not fake. We're not phony.
No, not at all.
We really drink on this podcast. And it's for you, the listeners, that we do
it
that.
So I would say so you don't have to, but we would like you to drink with us while you're listening, as long as it is safe to do so. If you are in the car, do not.
Do not.
Do not. If you are at work, do not, unless you work in the brewery industry and your management is okay with you having to shift beer while you're doing this.
The right place.
However,
for that.
correct. Which I will say, little disclaimer about that. All the opinions that we have, everything that we say about these podcasts and everything, pretty much every word that we say during this episode are our own opinions. They are not the opinions of anyone else, of any company we may or may not be associated with, of any place we may or may not be recording at.
Right.
So if you get mad at something we say, come at us.
Come at us, not
it's
Higher Gravity or any of the places
else
that we may or may not work at.
Yes. But we're drinking.
But we are
actually drinking.
Julia, let's cheers, Julia.
Cheers,
great
Marco.
to see you.
Great holiday.
Just after Christmas. I'm going to go ahead and start since you just took a sip.
Yeah.
I am having dinner from Maine Beer Company.
Hell yes.
On tap here at Higher Gravity Summit Park.
Yes, there may still be some at the Northside location too, but no guarantees. If you're interested, it is draft only. You cannot take this to go with you because limited amounts. But damn, is this good? I may have had multiple dinners before we started recording.
You had several dinners.
I did. So that's why what I'm drinking right now, which I may have another dinner. I may have, second helpings before I head out. But I'm having Westside's Amber because it's a damn good beer.
Hell yeah.
It is excellent.
Hell yeah, Julia. Sounds good. All right. So did you listen to any Cincinnati-based craft beer podcasts?
I listened to a few.
During the holiday week last week.
I did. I listened to a few. Let's see if, our notes are always so insane.
Usually they match.
It is amazing. But
Usually
let's make sure. Let's double
go.
check and see. I have Drinking with the Gnome, the episode on Glühwein.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I listened to that for sure.
All right. We have Cincy Brewcast with the Hoperatives are back, or the Hoperatives.
Hoperator.
The Hoptastics.
And which podcast?
The Cincinnati Brewcast.
I did listen to that.
I just spilled a little bit of my beer. Sorry, guys.
That's for your homies?
It is for my homies.
Okay,
it's for
very good.
everyone that had to travel in the weather Friday and Saturday.
Oh,
That's what I'm.
well.
that's what
I
I'm
appreciate
saying.
that. Thank you.
Hey, I was
So
out
does
there.
my
I was
wife
out there
and
too.
many
yeah.
others.
Also listened to. Let's see, the Brews Traveler Outcast podcast.
Yeah, I
where they
did.
went down to Deadlow.
Yep.
And Craft Parenting Pod, where they covered episodes 23 and 24 of the Higher Gravity Beer Event calendar.
Yep.
I don't know if their last episode for the last day has come out yet. If it has, my podcatcher hasn't shown it yet, but there should be one more of those coming out. And then Hustle and Brews. We finally got another episode of that, talking with Wieland Lawn Care.
Yeah, with Matt Damaris, who's a hustler, baby.
Excellent. Do you want to start off with... Actually, you know what? I had an idea.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Do you have a button to indicate that you have an idea?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
because they don't happen frequently enough for me to have a button for it.
Oh, okay.
But maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Let's start off...
Like in the year 2000? In the year 2000.
Let's go
I'm
ahead
so old
and...
that used to be like a thing. Like people used
yes.
to wonder what was
think
going
like
to happen in the year 2000.
And if those people would look at us now, they would be so disappointed. Like, we should have had flying cars, but not that I would trust anyone to drive a flying car right now. But I feel like the 2000s would be very disappointing for anyone, like, in the past with these vast, amazing ideas of what the future was going to hold.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be totally amazing.
I think
in
it'd
the
be
future.
fun. I think it'd be fun to knock out...
Bigly in the future. All right, go
You
ahead.
never know. I think it'd be fun to knock out the Gnomes podcast first, and then the Outcast podcast, and round up with Hustle and Brews and Craft Parenting podcast, because we'll go into this later on, but those are kind of more of mini recaps.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do
So
it.
I figure the ones that will take us the longest, that we will tangent the most on, let's get those out of the way first.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and do it just so we can have another drink.
Let's go.
Dancing with the Gnome,
Dancing with the Gnome.
a.k.a. Drinking with the Gnome.
I did put that in the chat.
You did.
Dancing with the Gnome.
You did. I saw that. I laughed. It was wonderful. This was episode 20, Drinking Glühwein.
Glühwein.
This was recorded down at Chris Kindle Market on the Schmidlap lawn outside of Moorline Lager House.
The Glühwein.
Yes. Which...
So,
God,
no. Do you have a something, a sounder, or do you have a note or some sort of?
well, you know that I have notes because you have notes.
No. Yes, I have
Yes.
notes.
This was an episode full of guests.
Yes.
This was one where the Gnome has said on multiple episodes of Drinking with the Gnome about doing them down at Schmidlap, saying, hey, if you're in the area on a Thursday, just stop on by, say hi, have a drink, hang out,
Breathe on the outside of the Gnome.
breathe
Dome.
on the outside of the Gnome Dome, fog it all up, be all creepy.
Yep.
And this past Thursday, I'm like, I'm not doing anything. The weather's decent, for December, for what it's been. I'm going to go down and harass the Gnome. And my sole intent was literally
Heckling.
to just heckle, to like be that creepy face pressed to, the outside of the Gnome Dome.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe just, say hi, have, a drink either before or after he recorded. And that was going to be it. But then he's like, well, hey, there were a ton of people around, ton of people talking. He's like, well, here, Julia, why don't you sit in first? And then out of nowhere, all of a sudden there were like 4 other people that it's like, you need to be a guest on this episode and you need to be a guest. It was like Oprah, you be a guest and you be a guest and
Right.
everyone's a guest. So it was,
Had no idea
I-
that a superhuman being was going to be a guest.
yes, holy crap. It was the coolest thing in the world.
Right.
So the
There
guest
was
on this episode,
there was
yes,
Julia as a superhuman being, and then there was
a superhero.
a superhero
Yes.
on the pod.
Yes,
or
you
the
had
live
myself,
stream.
you had Thor, which we will talk about,
Thor.
Chef Nate, and Greg. So
Yeah.
it was the Gnome
Chef
Dome
Nate and
was the Gnome Dome was pretty packed. I mean, it was something to wear when
Was the heater keeping it warm?
I think it was more the people in there that were keeping
Okay,
it
so
warm,
you think
more so
the-
than the heater.
The body heat.
The body heat, yes, because
it was
when
getting up there.
because during the setup,
The body
it
heat.
still wasn't. It was warmer than it was when I was there for the cocktail episode. It seemed like it was warmer than when you were there, even though you were both in short sleeves. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was not chilly at all in that thing once everyone started filtering in.
The heat is on.
Here it's showtime. I remember the commercial. That's probably terrible. Let's see. There is this episode was about Glühwein, which is a traditional. Well, I would say German, but Gnome went into the history of it. It's been
Right.
around since Roman days. It is a warmed mulled wine.
It's wine
Beers.
that incorporates
Yeah.
glue.
Lots of glue and glitter, because that's how you get the glow to
Yeah.
as us Americans say, glow wine. So super cool to talk about the history of it. It was the very first time I'd ever had it. It was amazing.
Did you get purple?
I did
purple
not.
lips?
I did not, which means I didn't drink enough.
Purple lips.
Nice. Kind of do a little Purple Rain kind of
Yeah.
tie in there. Apparently, we talked. I asked if there were Glühwein competitions, and that started a bit of a conversation about how there is no such thing as an unbiased competition. Every competition has some sort of bias from the judges, especially when it comes to like a flavor or beverage, food, that type of thing.
Right.
So you just have to kind of sway the judges. And Gnome actually talked about that a bit in last week's Cincy Brewcast episode with Andy McLeese, that the point of a competition is to sway the judges to like what you gave them the best. So I asked, are there any actual Glühwein competitions? And not officially, though we find out later from Thor
That's right.
that there are some. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. Again, he talked about what Glühwein is, kind of the history behind it. You had me going, oh my God, this is really, really good. I really like this. And then I got kicked out because there were more important people that needed to sit in the guest seat.
I found that it was amazing that Thor knew about Joe from Craft Parenting Pod. He's like,
He's
like Thor from Germany. He's like, is that
Do you
the
guys
Joe
know? Yeah.
from the Michael Jackson of German dancing? It's the Joe, and he knew about Joe, and he's like, and his wife, boom, boom,
Caroline.
and he knew. It's crazy. It was crazy.
Joe's stardom knows no bounds. I mean, a random guy at the
Random
Chris
guy.
Kindle Market.
And Thor's like, he's the Michael Jackson of German dancing.
And we're
Very
like, we
large
know that
feet,
guy.
Very large
Yeah.
feet, tiny hands.
Tiny hands.
Wonderful person. Really great guy.
Super awesome. So speaking of Thor, what does Cincinnati's Chris Kindle Market, how authentic is it? What is
Yeah.
it compared to the ones out in Germany? Because Thor moved here about 30 years ago, I believe he said. But prior to that, he kind of confirmed that, yeah, this is what we do when the weather gets cold, when it gets winter,
Right.
we go to these markets. It's expected. It's what you do. And you drink the Glühwein. And it's part of the experience, not necessarily just sitting around drinking. You're drinking it while you're walking around, while you're doing your Christmas shopping. And apparently what Cincinnati has is pretty authentic.
Yeah, that's
Which
the
I
way-
thought was super, super cool.
That is super cool. And by the way, I don't understand. Like, I do really like the expansion. I'm not going to say proliferation, but I do like the expansion of all of these door districts.
Yeah.
Growing up where I grew up, and in the state, the city, the town, the parish that I did. This is the way I grew up. Where, I mean, you were pretty free to pretty much walk around and that kind of thing. And so, with the beverage, why this isn't a thing other places, I don't really understand. But I really
I think
love.
it's starting to. Like,
I
people
really love how it's starting to be that way. And then with the markets and things like that, that's starting to get around too. Because as we talk about our 0.5 calendar episodes, they had holiday markets at different breweries and all these things. And it's really cool how breweries are really trying to be ingratiated in the culture of the town, of the municipality, but also try to really bring around this sort of community and heritage type thing. So that was really cool.
It was, and I got a chance to talk to Thor a bit after both before he was basically kind of pulled into a seat, like, we need to talk to you on this, and he was like, I guess, sure, whatever. And then afterwards, such a cool guy. I am so honored to have met him, to have had a few minutes just to talk to him about craft beer. He loves the Cincinnati craft beer scene. Everything was great.
Yeah, that's cool.
But listening in the episode, one of the questions that was asked, I'm not going to answer it because I want you guys to listen to this episode because it was fantastic. Does the United States get the drinking experience. Like, it's not just about drinking. In Germany, it's an experience. Does the U.S. get that? And you get to hear what Thor says about that, what he thinks about it. And tying back to Christkindl Market, in Germany, everyone goes to the market at Christmas time.
Right.
It's not just something where it's I don't want to call it a fad, but it's not something where, I think a lot of places in the U.S. it's kind of a gimmick or a little kitschy kind of thing. It's an actual part of their culture, and hopefully in the United States it becomes more and more a part of normal Christmas culture for us as more and more places embrace the Christmas markets.
Right, and so as many of us grew up watching A Christmas Story, and then now more recently the follow-up, A Christmas Story, there were these gigantic shopping malls with these wonderful displays out in the window and all these things that we used to grow up thinking like, this was Christmas, this is where you shop. And in Germany and other places, you would go to these markets.
You actually have that.
That's where you shopped. And so I think that's cool that we're trying to bring that back, especially for small business, which is really cool.
That was Thor, and then it was like, hey, we have plenty of other people here that we need to kind of get onto the podcast. So Chef Nate walked up to the guest seat.
Chef Nate.
And I'm sorry, but Chef Nate had the best line because Thor left his mug of Glühwein on the table when he walked away. Absolute best line ever. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys because it was...
I'm not going to either.
Listen to the episode.
Go listen to the episode.
It was so great. Everyone in the Gnome Den was like, oh my God, you just said the most perfect thing in the whole wide world.
It was.
It was great. Chef Nate came on and talked about how he came up with the recipe, but how the process was to...
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marco. You were...
No, well, I also don't want to spoil the origin story of the Glühwein.
Right.
But I do want to say that he talks about the origin story of the Glühwein.
Yes, and he did not... I will say...
Or Glühwein.
I will say that he did not... This was not a recipe for the Christkindl Market's Glühwein that he came up with on his own. It came from an incredible resource.
Yeah,
and I definitely don't want to spoil it.
Not going to spoil it.
Go
listen.
The episode's not that long. We're probably going to talk about the episode longer than the actual episode itself.
We're going to try not to, but we probably will.
But he definitely talked a lot about how they made it, how, the size of the batches that they're making it in to ensure... the size of the batches they're making it in to ensure that every batch that they make and get out to the shack where it's being sold at on the Schmidlap lawn is as kind of hot and fresh, and that they're not over making batches to where the spices aren't going to taste the same. It's not going to taste the same. It's absolutely phenomenal. So it was really cool to get to talk to Chef Nate about that and to hear him talk in depth with it to the Gnome on this episode.
And then you got to talk to the Greg Hartman, the Cincinnati beer baron.
It is true. It's true. He jumped on, and one of the first questions that Gnome asked was, why Christkindl Market? Why do one of these? Why put on this type of... I feel bad calling it an event because it's so much more than that. Once you get down there and see it, it is not just an event. But I guess the term is the easiest one that fits. But they talked about why do a Christkindl Market? Why put on an event like this? And when you hear about the money that Greg put into this event to make it happen the way that it's happening, which is wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. He is improving the local economy with it. He is helping create jobs with this.
Also, extremely flattered about how just glowingly he talked about Truth Beer Pod, about how he knew instantly who you were. He was excited to meet you, which was really cool. I mean, to me, one of the coolest things about having this podcast is, giving other people voices in Cincinnati craft beer. And so you getting recognized out and about, it brings me joy. And for Greg Hartman, the Cincinnati beer baron, to even have a speck of thought about our podcast and to know who you were and want to come up and give show lines to you and that sort of thing is like, that's just amazing. And it's something really positive that we're gonna just take on and latch to and move forward with. I mean, that was super, super awesome. So thank you, Greg.
And Greg, if you want to sponsor Truth Beer Pod, you know how to reach us at Truth Beer Pod everywhere, truthbeerpod@gmail.com. But no, Greg came on. He was the last guest on this particular episode. We already said that the first question and the biggest part of the discussion was why Christkindl Market, how to do it right, how to do it the way that it needs to be done. And you also learn in this episode, and this will be the last note that I have, what is an FOG?
Ah, the FOG.
Yes, the FOG. So that is a term that I was not aware of until that night. So if you listen to this episode, you'll be in the know.
Yep.
Because if you know, you know.
If you
don't, you'll just be confused and say, I don't know, fog.
Right.
Which may or may not be accurate.
Right.
All things considered. That's all that I had for... I'm going to do it. Dancing with the Gnome.
Dancing with the Gnome. Awesome.
Drinking Glühwein.
The Glühwein.
Such a fun episode. I was so grateful to... not only just be a part of being on the episode, but just being in that Gnome Dome with everyone else and just the absolutely amazing stories and creativity and just wonderful people that I got to be present with during that episode.
I was just beaming happy for you. I just really was. So it was, what an experience and
that
glad.
I certainly wasn't intending to be part of, but man, it was
I'm
cool.
just happy about that.
It was cool.
It's really cool how some things play out like that. So,
Agreed.
That's awesome. Cheers. Dancing with the Gnome.
Yeah, cheers to Dancing with the Gnome. You're almost done with dinner. Do you need dessert before we get into
Yeah, I'm going to need something else.
One?
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
I'm going to go check on my son.
Sounds
Vincent.
good. I'm gonna.
He's right there.
I'm watching him. You got the pillar.
Where I'm sitting, I have the pillar and the T-shirts to where I can't see him. If I was sitting where Julia was,
it would be no problem.
I could see him and
but Marco
understand
doesn't want to sit where I
there.
sit. There's something that he just doesn't like about my chair.
Well, it's an OCD sort of thing.
It's fine.
So my back's to the wall.
It's true. To the windows.
Anyway, it's a thing. I'm just. I have
fine.
things. I have problem situations.
It's fine. You go check on Vincent, get another beer. I'm going to take a break around the corner once you're done with that.
Yeah.
And then we will go ahead and take care of the rest of these podcasts.
Let's go. We're going to rip it.
Sounds good. All right. So
what are we going to do next?
Well, what are you drinking? You have something new?
I am drinking Little King's cream ale.
Hell yeah.
Cheers, Julia.
Cheers, Marco. I'm still drinking
I think
my
third
amber.
week in a row, maybe?
Yeah. At least second. But no, you're right. I do think we did have...
I'm
Little
here for
Kings.
it.
Yeah,
I am here
awesome.
for Little Kings.
If not on the show, either during our pre- or post-production meeting. I believe this is week 3 that you've had it.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I'm still drinking my amber because I drink it slow.
Yeah.
Even not by myself. Like I said,
George Thorogood.
You see, my skills are tanking. Right
I drink it slow. Yeah, nobody here.
I had the first line, the rest of it just nothing. All right, let's move on because I have to be up super early tomorrow.
Yeah, we need to
let's
move
get
on.
through these. On let's see, season 8, episode 31 of the Cincinnati Brewcast.
Cheers.
Because we gotta finish these beers. The Hoperatives return. Hoperatives. The Hoptastics. Hoperatives. The Hoperatives returns. Hoperatives.
Returns.
Could be tricky to say if you're trying to rush it or if you've had beers.
Yeah.
They are relaunching January the 1st, and I am very excited about that. And the they that I'm talking about that we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
I'm not excluding you in any way, shape, or form from this. Tom and Carla Streeter.
Yeah.
Who are not only... Were they some of the very first Cincinnati beer bloggers? Like in that very first kind of...
I don't know, maybe.
Era back
possibly.
in 2009 when they started.
Possibly.
They're also judges for the U.S. Open the U.S. Open and the U.S. Homebrew Open beer competitions, which is freaking amazing. They ninja recorded at Wooden Cask. They kind of just showed up and said, "Yeah, we're doing a thing," and there you go. And it turned out freaking awesome. Wasn't loud at all.
No.
They were concerned about that.
No.
Wasn't.
No.
Had no idea there was any background noise happening at all. Just like here at Higher Gravity Summit Park. I mean, it's practically dead in here, as you can tell by the lack of background noise that we are experiencing
on a Monday. After Christmas.
The day after people are like, I am so sick of family and all that. I need beer. I am going to higher gravity.
Yeah.
And it's great. I absolutely love this.
I know them.
That's awesome.
I know Carla and Tom.
That is freaking awesome.
I have known them for several years. I mean, acquaintances. I mean, in the beer business. So to speak. Very happy to hear Hoperatives is coming back. They have a collective of different writers that they're going to work with. Several of which who have been published. They have a fondness and a passion for. Drinking, it's better drinking. Let's call it that way.
Yes.
They don't really say it's about craft beer. It's about better drinking.
Yes.
And to people in the beer business, they know Carla and her husband because of Hoperatives, maybe, or because of the work that Carla had done at Cincinnati State as helping to get founded and then teach some of the classes for the Brewing Sciences program for Cincinnati State, as well as
Can I just say, and hopefully people understand why I'm saying this. I love that the start of that program, or the building up of the first stages of that program, a woman was involved. Because women have been involved. I mean, Bruce Guy's Happy Hour touched on this a lot. Women are often a huge part of the brewery scene, but a lot of times it's behind the scenes. They're not the people that are the faces of these different programs, these different, these different, openings, what have you. They're not the most public side of what's happening. So to know that and to hear that just is absolutely awesome that she was kind of immediately from Cincinnati State given the credit that she deserves to be given the opportunity even to help set that program up. And that's completely outside of the episode. We don't talk about that at all. But
this is our conversation, and it's absolutely important, and I'm glad for that as well. Very happy about it. In the interest of time, because by the way, as we're recording this the day after Christmas, and as this posts, a couple days before New Year's, we had some friends stop by, and we decided to not push the record button, and we hung out with some friends, and so we're under a little bit of a time crunch, also because Higher Gravity on this day closes an hour earlier than usual.
Well, according to the door, not according to the website. So a little bit of trickiness.
But you have a major project going on at work that you are going to get in early for tomorrow.
Correct.
Usually wouldn't be a thing because we record on Tuesdays, but not Monday, and today we're here on a Monday.
Yeah.
So we want to rip through all these and still give them their due diligence.
Yes.
We're not going to pencil whip it, but on the same hand...
But we're going to try not to go down as many rabbit holes as we normally do.
Exactly. So
thank God we don't have... and I can't believe I'm saying this, but thank God we don't have a Shift Beers episode to cover this week, or we'd be in trouble.
And I think it's only because somebody didn't edit one. I do know firsthand there was one recorded last week.
Gotcha.
But
all right,
anyway,
let's get back to Cincy Brewcast.
But Hoperatives, I guess, as they started, they had a lot of different components to Hoperatives, where there was a weekly thing that they would talk about.
This Week in Beer with events
This Week in Beer and events and releases and things. That seems like a gargantuan task. Coming from a podcast that puts out a calendar episode and clearly misses probably half the stuff that is going on in Cincinnati craft beer.
Well, the problem with that is, it's
not us, it's you.
It's you.
I just want you out there to know.
To all you breweries out there, I try to have my list of the calendar events happening done by Sunday. Sunday, sometimes Monday. If I see something, If I see something hit Monday, I'll add it to the list. 9 times out of 10, my list is done and printed out for Marco and I Monday evening. That way, when I'm at work, I don't have to try to Facebook while I'm at work. Tuesday, we record. It's all done. A lot of breweries don't release their weekly calendar stuff until Monday afternoon, Monday evening, or they post about an event the day or two before. Some breweries are awesome about getting things out. Hey, we're having an event in 2 weeks. We're going to post about it 2 weeks early. Other breweries, they don't post about that event until 2 days before. So we do our best. So what Hoperatives have done in the past to try to cover these events that are happening, my undue respect to you for taking that on. And they even said that when they started in 2009, there were really only 4 breweries and 1 brew pub open. So, and even that they found was a little challenging at times because of the amount of events, releases, things going on between those. And as the Cincinnati craft beer scene kept growing and growing, they're like, how in the world do we try to continue to fit in all of these things that we were able to do at the start of this journey?
And just like I was very flattered and honored that Greg had so many gracious things to say about the podcast, Greg Hartman, the beer baron,
huge fan.
And also about you. I am flattered that part of Hoperatives coming back and doing this is because of the gargantuan task that we take on every week with our 0.5s and try to talk about everything that we talk about. I just want to say love right back at you.
Absolutely.
You know,
there needs to be a collaboration between us.
It's just flattering to know that a platform as big as yours, rekindle the spirit to come back and to do this, because you're like, if these putzes can do this, then so can we. And I say that gracefully because I'm the only putz here. Julia is not.
No.
Julia's not. But
have you heard me speak lately? I don't know about that.
But anyway, it was such an honor to have that, and so thank you. But they have definitely not just a platform and a plethora. Do you know what a plethora is, Julia?
A lot, a bunch of, a multitude of. Close enough?
See, Julia.
See?
You know what
Oui.
You know what a plethora is.
I try.
So they have a multitude of people working with them to be able to put together what is going to be a sort of magazine type weekly
that encompasses
post?
Right, and that encompasses just drinking in general. Here, it is not just about beer anymore. I mean, they're going to be talking about spirits, wine, low and non-alcoholic beverages, and mostly, non-alcoholic, low carb, wines, beers are going to stay on that side of the spectrum there. Cider, seltzers, hard soda. I mean, you name the beverage that people are drinking in breweries, bars, tap rooms, they're going to be covering it. And that is so huge and so crazy to me.
Huge.
It's huge. I cannot wait. One of the other cool things that they talked about, because again, I hate to feel like we're rushing through talking about Cincy Brewcast, but again, we are on a bit of a time crunch tonight. I love that they said, and this is something that we all know, we just don't like to acknowledge, I feel like, negativity is much louder than positivity.
Yeah, so there's definitely something to that. I mean, there can be, 20, 30 interactions about a positive thing on something, and then a one negative thing spirals into 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, right. Different interactions.
Or a more recent and relative example, there could be 25 amazing beers in a box. You have one beer that someone or a couple people go, I don't agree with this beer for whatever reason, and boom, the whole box is crap. And it's not. It's not. And everyone's entitled to their own opinion. If you don't like the style, if you don't like the whatever, that's fine.
Yes,
that is perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine. But that's the.
But don't tear down
that's
the
entire. That's the thing that sort of got latched to and latched onto and run with.
Don't tear down the entire building because you don't like one door.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
They're entitled to their opinion. They're wrong, but they're entitled to their opinion. So
Speaking of, another thing that Tom said right after that or during that conversation is that they're big on enjoy what you want to enjoy, which is the same thing. If you're not enjoying something, you don't have to partake in it.
And also, they don't rank, or
No.
they don't say something's the best.
The best, or this is
The
our
best.
favorite, or
Right.
right. They don't say that it's their favorite. You can probably tell because no matter what you try to do, sometimes your bias one way or another does shine through every now and then. I'm sure by now you guys know that higher gravity just is the worst, and we're just here because, I don't know, the selection's good. Outside of that, who knows?
Yeah.
But we try not to let that bias come through our podcast.
Exactly.
You know?
We're not going to be
Jason,
tainted.
I'm sorry.
We're not going to be
No,
tainted
no, no,
by
no.
the proverbial man, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Speaking of man, it was that part of the conversation that led into the sponsor for this week's episode of Cincy Brewcast.
The sponsor.
Manscaped.com.
Manscaped.com.
Promo code Gnome.
Promo code Gnome.
At Manscaped.com. The jingle balls. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The continued repeating of that phrase over and over. My head was in my hands. I had tears in my eyes from just laughing at the absurdity and and also the accuracy of everything that Gnome was
Hilarious.
saying. Oh, so much Manscaped.
I know. Even in the winter
let's-
months,
Yeah.
gotta.
You got to stay fresh. We're going to start a whole commercial, and they're not sponsoring us, so I
just
am
move
not
on.
going to talk about how much I actually enjoy their products. Let's see, what else was there? There was conversation about the amount of bloggers for the Cincinnati drinking scene, and I agree there need to be more bloggers, podcasters, videographers, YouTubers that cover things in Cincinnati, because there are so many niches, however you like to say that word, that could be covered. There could be an entire blog, an entire podcast, an entire, social media platform just based off of brewery events, just based off of beer releases, that type of thing. And I agree with that. And this part of the conversation, kind of the second part that started after the Manscaped ad, I thought, I related to so incredibly closely, because they're like, find your niche. There is going to be a subset of the Cincinnati craft beer or the Cincinnati drinking world that your one segment, maybe you want to focus on sours. And there is a whole community that is available to you if you want to blog about it, or if you want to do any type of social media or whatever kind of interaction with that. And I think they're 100% right. I mean, look at us. We talk about other Cincinnati beer podcasts, and somehow people like like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I welcome all of it. Come one, come all. Let's do it. Let's have a great time. The more of us that are out there that are shouting about how great what this city has to offer from a craft beer drinking perspective, I think can only help. And so
sure.
let's make the voices louder. Let's get out there and shout it from the rooftops. Whatever
make the Cincinnati
we need.
drinking scene even bigger than it already is. Let's make sure that people hear about us in every corner of the world, which people already
be crazy
are.
in a few years from now. I mean, with anybody who comes on board, or if it's just us in the community that we know, we talk about, be totally great if as the nation tries to understand what we have to offer as a craft beer scene. If just all of us start. Our voices just start building a following to talk about what we have going on here. That'd be really great.
I agree 100%, and I am super excited for. I don't want to just call it a blog, because it feels like it's going to be so much more than that. It's going to be a resource where it's kind of a one-stop shop. Not that the gnarlygnome.com isn't already, but this is going to be another place you can go to that might fill in some of the gaps that Gnome just doesn't have time to focus on.
But you use a great word, resource. It's like we went to the Gnome, we went to other people as a resource to start a podcast. They are resources to be in the craft beer community.
Absolutely, yes. If you want to know where to go for this or for that, yeah.
From shade tree legal perspective, from a from just many different aspects, because of how much they've put in the community and the jobs they've done and what they know and what they taught, and the information they have. They are an enormous resource. And so
for sure.
To have them back on a regularly anticipated platform, it's fantastic. It's gonna help all of this advance so much more.
I agree 100%. I can't wait. They have a countdown timer on their website, Hoperatives.com. Hoperatives.
Hoperators. Which Julia helped me find on my phone.
Yes. It's amazing what missing one letter can do to your Google search results.
I still...
it's crazy.
Think,
you got it. We found it for you. Was there anything else that you had on this episode of... You're ready to pick up your bottle of Little Kings? You only have like one sip left in it. So I'm glad that we caught this when I did. The Cincinnati Brewcast.
Nope, that's it on my notes.
All right, well, I am, believe it or not, almost done with my amber. So I am going to get my last beer of the night, and I am getting the Guinness non-alcoholic beer, because that was really good. All right, we'll be right back, guys. All right, we're back, and we have, I'll just say 2 full podcasts-ish to cover, because we're going to do Brews Traveler Outcast podcast, and then we're going to do mini recaps of Hustle and Brews and Craft Parenting podcast, and we'll explain why when we get to them. But Marco, what is in your glass?
I have Rothaus Pils.
Hell
Julia.
yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. What do you have?
I have Guinness's non-alcoholic. I don't know how to say it.
Guinness non-alcoholic.
But it's good, and it's going to make sure that that I am not hurting tomorrow at 3:30 in the morning when I wake up. Cheers. Brews Traveler Outcast podcast, episode 21, Deadlow Brewing. This is cool. They haven't had an episode in a while, and I was super happy to see this one hit. It hit the Facebook feed before it hit my podcatcher. It was Quick Trip, the Cincy Brews Traveler, and Kyle from Deadlow Brewing was on this episode.
Yep.
Deadlow, they kind of had differing opinions on, is this a medium-sized brewery? Is it a large-sized brewery? Are you going by production numbers? Are you going by the taproom space numbers? Are you going by the overall space that they have for the brewery, inside, outside, parking, all of that? Definitely listen to the episode to figure out what size brewery is Deadlow.
And to decide for yourself how you're going to determine that for yourself.
Yes.
Like, I have my way I would determine it, but it may not be your way.
It was like an episode of Sonder Stories. How many qualifiers do you need to make a medium brewery, to make, a large brewery?
Right.
And this was an episode where they kind of went into that a little more in depth than they have on other episodes, talking about other breweries, which was kind of fun. Let's see, what else do I have here? Have you been down to Deadlow yet?
No.
Okay. They talked about the restaurant, which the food is amazing. Josh and I went, didn't drink as much there as we wanted to because it was starting to get later in the day, and we were already kind of done. That was the day that we hit up Alexandria Brewing as well, went down to Deadlow. Had an absolutely fantastic time. The beers that we had were super, super good. The food is absolutely amazing. It is a full restaurant space, not just a brewery space. So the quality that you get from there it's wonderful. I know that in the past, when they first opened, whenever any brewery first opens, it's always a little iffy just because people getting used to new equipment, that type of thing. And then it sounded like things went up and then they kind of went down, and now they're back on that upswing. Hopefully all the pieces are falling into place now, and Deadlow is going to be absolutely everything that it was when my Josh and I went, and when Quick Trip and the Brews Traveler showed up, which sounds like an absolutely amazing time all around. They talked about their typical what's within a 5-mile radius.
Yep.
Which for this episode, they didn't cover just breweries, but different events and event spaces and different entertainment opportunities within 5 miles, because this is almost central to a lot of major Cincinnati area event spaces.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, like Riverbend, I almost said Riverfront Coliseum. Riverbend, River Downs, you have, again, within 5 miles, you have downtown Cincinnati. So within that 5-mile radius, they like to say, you have the banks and everything on the banks.
Right.
As far as breweries are concerned, within 5 miles, Darkness Brewing. You have Paradise, you have Braxton, you have Streetside. And they talked about how that river is kind of a mindfuck as far as where things are in relation. That throws people off. Like we were talking to a couple people earlier today.
So they said Paradise? Mm-hmm. Which Paradise location?
I would assume Anderson, because if you think about it, if you go right across 275, across the bridge, you're right there in Anderson. Like Anderson is just...
Really?
Just down, yeah.
I don't know why I keep thinking Paradise...
Because they had the Williamsburg location, but then they have the one that's in Anderson.
I don't know why I keep thinking Paradise is like Eastgate.
It's out like that way, but again, the way where it's located, and it's because to get to a lot of these places, the easiest way is to cross the river into Kentucky and then go back into Ohio. It makes it seem like it's that much farther away. Yeah, don't give me those eyes. Don't give me that look.
No. I think this is part of.
Yeah, it's
this
really
is part
cool,
of what's relevant. Like our discussion back and forth is part of what's probably going to be intriguing to those listeners who go listen to the podcast.
Right,
say,
you're having that same like
Paradise.
Really?
Eastgate,
what? Are you sure?
Eastgate, Jungle Gyms. How is all this close to Deadlow?
Now, I will say that what they do for their 5-mile radius isn't necessarily. It's like a 5-mile radius. But I think that's a circle around there. Now, when you're driving from Deadlow to, say, Paradise, it might be more than 5 miles just because there is no, like as we say, as the crow flies, there is no just straight path from one to the other. So that 5 miles might be a 20-minute drive as opposed to a 5-minute drive. Just because you can't go directly from point A to point B. You have to wind around.
5 miles, not necessarily... Exactly. Direct route 5 miles.
But it's still close enough. Like a 5-mile radius is still close enough to hit a couple of those places within that radius.
Yeah,
right. And that's their point. Their point.
When we were record at BC's Montgomery, it was close to my house. It would take me like 10 to 12 minutes to get there.
Sure.
But and it was an easy drive because I would just go 71 to 275, and then it was right off the exit.
Right.
So it was an easy drive.
Sure.
I could take Montgomery Road. It would take me 15 minutes. But that's because it was right down Montgomery Road. I would hit stoplights, but it was right off.
But it's still within that small radius of...
it was right there.
And that's what Outcast podcast does is, yes, they're not giving you the... That's why they say a 5-mile radius and not what's within a 15-minute
drive. Yeah,
right.
It's 5-mile radius.
Sure, but again, all of that stuff so close. I never would have thought that. I never would have thought Deadlow is within a 5-mile radius of Darkness. But when I actually thought about it and kind of turned it around in my head and kind of did the... Okay, let me pretend I'm in my car and I'm going here and I'm getting off this exit. Actually, yeah, that's not that far.
Right.
It's just not maybe the easiest, most straightforward path. Which, I love that about their podcast.
I do love that as well because if you're going to go experience a place and you want to go experience other places, that is cool to say, hey, we can go do that. And by the way, we tried to do that when we were at Beer, Booze, and Bonks. And, Biscuits, Bobcats, and Boobies were like, let's go to this place. None of us has ever been. And we're like, it's only, 3 miles from here. And then my wife said, hey, all you drunk people, the place is closed.
Like, no. Well,
and You're right.
Well, it's kind of like when I said for Big Sis Day, too, like, hey, while you're here on the west side, like after Big Sis, we're within this radius of these places that you've never been. Let's go. And you're like, oh, that's that close? And I'm like, yeah. Like Braxton, I mean, I think that from my house, that might be within a 5-mile radius or just slightly outside.
I believe that.
But because you have to like cross the river,
Well, I was in the
mind is
passenger
like,
seat, so,
yeah, and you're like,
yeah.
wait a minute, we're already here, and I'm like, yeah, you literally go down a hill, across the river, around a turn,
Which also made
and
me,
you're there, Braxton.
which also made me think in my mind, another reason I don't want to live on the west side, because it's right there near downtown.
Oh, my
I'm
goodness.
too close to downtown, and I'm too close to across the river.
Hey.
I don't want to be that close
Some
to any
people,
of that.
some people say we get fireworks every night. Other people say they're gunshots. It's all in how you look at it.
I just I don't know.
Oh my goodness! All right, let's go ahead and get back and try to rein this in a bit. After they talked about kind of the 5-mile radius and some of the like pre-brewery member interview that they like to do, they talked to Kyle, who is one of the founders and owners of Deadlow. They're actually just starting to get into distribution with some of their styles. They don't have their own canning line yet, but they're working on getting their beers into stores, into storefronts. They're starting at locations that are close to the brewery, so don't expect to see these at your local Kroger.
My
just
local
yet.
Kroger.
Your local Kroger just
Because
yet.
I am not near them.
True. I mean, they're not at Delhi Liquor yet, and they're not at Higher Gravity
Don't know
yet.
where that is.
It just Delhi
Liquor.
It's
Don't know.
It's fine. Once
Okay.
once Verge opens, you and I will hit up Delhi Liquor, pick up some tequila, because that's our thing.
All right.
Canning, distribution.
That's
they're in-
contract canning.
Yes.
Just want to say that we don't need to,
it's fine.
We don't
it's
need
fine.
to sit here. We don't need to linger on it.
I feel
It's
like
contract canning.
Contract canning, I feel like, is so much more acceptable than contract brewing, but that's, again, a whole other conversation
Same
for a
shit.
whole other day.
Contract canning. I just want to say, I know how that goes. That's an expensive proposition. Mm-hmm. And good on you. I hope all that works out from a margin standpoint.
Sure.
Getting your beer in other people's hands is always a plus until it's too expensive to do so.
Sure, and hopefully they're keeping an eye on things, and they will know when it... Hopefully it does not stop making sense or financial sense to do so.
For sure.
But
Yeah.
hopefully they're keeping enough of an eye on it to where they know that. I think that's a good idea for them to stay in local stores. I think they said they are at Party Source. That may be the kind of farthest reaching place that they're in.
The source of the party.
But again,
okay?
they didn't mention other specific location or stores names. So if you're in maybe a 1 or 2 mile radius of Deadlow, take a look at store shelves when you're at bottle shop shelves. And if you see something from Deadlow, pick it up, see how it is. So after some of that talk, they went into the rapid fire questions that they always ask, such
Right.
as things that are important. Again, like we said, these are great episodes if you want to know about a brewery before you check them out. They go over how many parking spaces do you have? Do you have event
They don't know.
space? They don't know how many parking spaces. they
and
have.
don't
that's
park
an
in the
interesting
wrong lot.
Correct. You will get towed. So listen to this episode before you go down to Deadlow, because they clarify what signs to look for to say where to park, where not to park. They go over in the rapid fires, how many taps you have. Do you have guest taps? Do you have things that are other than beer? Are you kid friendly, pet friendly? All the things that you want to know before you go to a brewery.
Right.
This section covers, and they cover it incredibly well. Probably better than any other podcast out there that talks to local breweries.
I think they do.
If I'm perfectly honest.
That section of the podcast is probably, from a Q&A standpoint, I mean,
one of the most important.
One of the most important ones.
sure.
Yeah, they do a good job with that.
Then they talked about, or rather, Kyle talked about what Deadlow is, the meaning of the name of the brewery, which I didn't know. I knew it had something to do with the river because they are right on the river.
Right on the river?
Right on the river.
House on the river.
They're running a brewery down by the river. I knew it had a river tie-in, didn't know what it was. He gave you an incredibly awesome explanation
They
of
tell
it,
you
and
what
that
it
is
is.
on their website too. So.
They tell you what it is, and we're not going to tell you.
No, you got to listen to it. Then that was then they took a break. They went ahead and let Kyle get back to doing Kyle things. And then they started talking about the beers that they drank and their MVBs, their most valuable beers. And this was interesting. Definitely listen, because they had something different happen on this episode than they've had happen on any other episode that they've done. They had a certain number of beers that they all agreed on.
Yeah.
For the best beers that they had while they were recording, which was... That was pretty fun, because they're like, holy cow, you picked that one too? No way. If you pick the next one, if you pick this, listen to find out how many of Deadlow's beers made both of their MVB lists.
Yep.
And hear about them describing the styles and how they would rate them on Untapped. And I don't know. I had a good time when I visited. I definitely want to go back, spend some more time down there. And this episode really made me go, yes, 100%. It's a place that everyone should check out.
You should.
If hopefully more than once, but at least once. At least get down there and do a whole lot of fun things while you're down there, because
activities.
Get a beer or two before or after any number of amazing activities in the area. So that is the end of my notes. So I'm assuming that's the end of your notes as well?
No, I just flipped my page over and it had the same thing. So.
Holy crap. All right. You good on your beer?
No.
No? Okay, do you want to take a break and get a refill, and then we'll run through?
We're going to run through 2 podcasts, like, super quick.
Super fast, yes.
Yeah.
So do you want to get a beer before we do that?
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
All right, we'll be right back.
I'm checking my son, too.
All right, we'll be right back then.
Julia, so we're back. It's a little strange.
It is.
Like, we're here on a Monday instead of a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Their hours are a little bit different on Monday than Tuesday. We also got together with friends today.
So our recap schedule is a little more crunched than normal.
Yes, and
but we're making it happen.
And my son Vincent's here with us, which I always love having Vincent here.
He's doing a great job of producing this show.
Yeah,
he's keeping us on target. It is awesome.
But I did get a beer. I have Bell's Hopslam. I don't know.
I have not had it yet this year. It'll be. I got a 6-pack to take home. Oh, there's still a little in the can.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopslam. I mean,
it's good.
For all you. Beer nerds, beer aficionados out there. Hopslam's been available for a bit.
A while, yeah.
I don't know if it's a new policy or something. Do you got a date there, Julia?
If this is the date, 11/4/22. So
okay, very good.
Not bad. I mean, there are a lot of other numbers, but that's the only one that looks like an actual date.
Okay, very good.
So that's not bad.
So I have not tasted it yet.
Well, you should. You should. Well, I mean, I'm still drinking my Guinness non-alcoholic, which it's good. I really enjoy this. I think this is the perfect beer for me to have as an end of the night beer. Marco, I saw your expression as you took a sip of your Hopslam.
Holy shit, that's good. God damn, that is so good. Man, it's a phenomenal beer.
It's really good.
So good.
Yeah.
It's so really good. Let's get through these last 2 recaps of the podcast, and then we will cheers and get out of Higher Gravity's hair so they can close up an hour earlier than we are.
we normally
shut it down.
All right. So these 2 podcasts, as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, are going to be more mini, kind of quicker recaps. One of them is Craft Parenting Podcast, and this is covering days 23 and 24 of the Beer Event calendar, which, again, there are fun episodes. You should definitely listen to them, but the episode is all about talking a little bit about the beer itself, the brewery the beer is from, and then they drink the beer and give their opinions on how they feel about it. Do they like it? Do they not? So there's not a lot in this episode or in these beer event episodes for us to recap, because all we would be doing is repeating, this is the beer, this is where it's from. They talk about the history. Basically, everything I just said would be every recap of these beer event episodes. But they are super fun. It is really cool to see both Joe and Caroline stepping out of their comfort zones to try these beers when they do fall into a category that they're not either familiar with or a fan of. We were talking in our pre-production meeting that it is so cool to see Joe, who definitely knows the styles that he likes. There are definitely lanes that he likes to stay in when it comes to beer, which is perfectly fine. But he's been willing to try every single beer and every single
for
style
sure.
that came out of the calendar. And again, a lot of the styles where he's like, I'm really not a fan of this style. He tries the beer and he's like, yeah, it's just really not my thing. But he's trying it. He's giving it an opportunity.
Yes.
And I love that so much about these episodes. So they talked in this one.
For sure.
This was days 23 and 24. Day 23 was the Festivus beer.
The
which
non-alcoholic beer.
Which caused some issues online.
Some putts decided that
There was more than one. There were a couple
Well, a
people
couple of
that were unhappy with it.
that were unhappy that there was a non-alcoholic beer on Festivus. They
Which is
didn't get the link.
the
They didn't
joke,
get the
yeah,
joke.
yeah.
And so they decided to air their grievance
Exactly,
on
yes.
the air their grievance
This
day.
Which I thought was great.
So,
And,
by
of
the way,
course,
joke's on you.
one of
Stop
my-
being a putz.
Yeah, I mean, one of my questions was, would you rather it be, a Bud Light or a Smirnoff Ice? Yeah, and it's like, okay, come on.
Just
Really
because
now?
it
Just because it had
alcohol.
Put a shot of vodka or tequila or rum or whatever you want.
Tequila
Fucking
would be awesome.
Spaghetti, you're
Can we
non-alcoholic.
get
We do not need a
Hold on.
spaghetti.
We not-
Spaghetti.
not need a spaghetti.
Your non-alcoholic beer. That beer was from Untitled Art, so it was still probably more expensive than most of the other beers in the calendar.
It is. It is probably more
Anyway,
expensive
that's
beer.
my soapbox. But again, it was awesome seeing both of them just try everything. And again, even if they didn't like it, they loved the experience of the beer vent box. They
And
had so
Joe
much
tried
fun.
to tell us that he was not intentionally waking Caroline up from
We all know the truth.
asleep
We know the truth.
to record. However, then Caroline echoed the fact that she told him, "Yes, wake me up so that we can
Before we
record."
go. Oh.
Yes. Yes. Last Christmas.
Oh,
All
my
right.
goodness.
Anyways, so she then asked him to wake her up so that she could do these
Sure.
episodes.
Sure.
And I'm sure she only said that because Joe told her she had to say that.
True that. Caroline, we see you, and we're so glad that
Caroline, you
did
have
what
her
needed to
number,
do.
right?
You do. She knows how to get a hold of us. Day 24 was from Sixth Sense Brewing. I am so done. It was an imperial coffee brown ale
So done off a non-alcoholic
off a
beer.
non-alcoholic beer. Well,
Let's go.
I mean, again, this episode was.
It's fun.
It was fun. It was like
fun.
the other beer
And what you find out is that Joe doesn't love most beer styles. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
through the 25 days of beer vent, what you find out is Joe will drink just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't love most beer styles, and then
But he's
also
willing to try.
he's willing
them.
to try
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
and he doesn't love non-alcoholic beer. And
That's fine.
You know, I would just say to Joe, look. It can be your best third beer of the night, or it can be your best fourth or last beer of the night. I'm
Right,
like, don't be closed-minded to a non-alcoholic beer, especially a non-alcoholic beer from that company, because it was probably done pretty well.
Yeah.
And so you can not be happy that on Festivus you got a non-alcoholic beer. But it's just because you don't recognize all these
The hilarity of getting that on
the
Festivus.
hilarity of it.
That was
I
great.
feel like if you can appreciate the conjoining aspect of it,
Yes.
then you would get it and you understand. Hey, that's the deal. And I feel like, boom, boom. Caroline, she got it.
Oh, she got it.
She got it.
100% got it,
And
yes.
she tried to talk Joe down from the ledge, and Joe was like, nah, I just don't like it.
Maybe next year, and this is to higher gravity. And this would add work to what they already do for Beer Vent. But maybe on the days that coincide with a festival, pastry day, Festivus, that type of thing, just put maybe tape to the can, bottle, whatever it is, just a small piece of paper that just says Happy Pastry Day, Happy Maine Day, Happy Festivus. And that's all you say. And when someone opens one of these up and goes, what is this for? They see something that says Happy Pastry Day, or in this case,
Pasty.
Happy Pasty Day. Correct. Thank you for correcting me there. Like for Festivus, if you see something that says Happy Festivus, someone's going to look at that and go, okay, well, what the hell's Festivus? Boom. Then they can look it up and go, oh,
Yeah.
I get it now. I don't think it's necessary, but maybe. I don't know. Just a thought. Done with Craft Parenting Pod. Again, there's just not...
Yeah, I'm done with that.
Oh, we're done with that.
Bye.
It's fun. Listen to it. Last one that we have for tonight is Hustle and Brews with Matt Damaris, episode 21, with Chad Wieland of Wieland Lawn Care.
Matt's a hustler, baby.
True that. The reason this is a kind of mini recap is they recorded at Little Miami Brewing. They did talk a bit about what they were drinking and kind of how they were unintentionally put into a commercial while they were there, which was absolutely
Pretty cool.
hilarious.
They got some pizza. They got some swag. Listen to that.
Yeah, got some beer. But the main part of the episode really isn't Cincinnati craft beer related, so it's not going to be as in depth of a recap as other shows.
So the structure of the podcast is Matt Damaris, the Cincy Brews traveler. He's a hustler, baby. He has many hats, wears many hats, and he gets together with a local entrepreneur, and he did. In this episode. Now, what's interesting is that he got together with a entrepreneur who was beginning their entrepreneurship at the age of, 49, 50 years old?
Yeah. Never too late to start.
It's not. And so they got together, and of course, he's known this person for a long time.
Yes.
Like, who doesn't he know, and who doesn't he know for a long time? But anyway, they do touch on a lot of things. Starting how he. It's so weird. There's so many different things. He was a musician that traveled. He was a
He's
musician.
been part of like almost every business out there.
A musician
it's
who
amazing.
started being a musician at like 8 years old, and his father was an entrepreneur or a musician, and then winding paths and turns and
backstage with the Doobie Brothers.
Oh,
and
Doobie Brothers,
holy
Michael
cow,
McDonald.
Yeah.
Michael McDonald. It is so interesting, the conversation, and you think it's going to end, and then it doesn't. And you think it's going to end, and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you think it's going to end,
But it always
and then it
gets
doesn't.
more interesting, which was
Exactly.
crazy about this episode.
And then, yes, and so there is a real business that they're talking about.
Absolutely.
But it's just in the... this was
It's
taped back
full on
in
now. 8
March?
months ago. March, I believe. Yeah.
March. So
He's had a full season of lawn care to see how this business is going.
right,
Yes.
and the two of us have very, very
Strong opinions on lawn care.
opinions on lawn care.
Yeah, I'm going to look this guy up.
And if
Hands
if
down.
you don't know what our opinions are, you can go back and listen to previous episodes. But
Do a couple of touch points on
yes,
this episode,
yeah,
and then wrap this up? Yeah.
A couple of touch points, wrap it up, because it really wasn't about beer. But
they definitely were talking about drinking on the show.
for sure.
But that wasn't really the focus or even a main part of the episode, which is why this is just a quicker recap.
Yeah.
Incredibly fun episode, though. You definitely need to
at
listen for
Little
these
Miami
reasons.
Brewing.
Little Miami. Some of the reasons that I have in my notes, which probably mirror yours pretty closely, for why
I
you need
see how many bullet points you have. I
Yes.
see how many I have. Looks very close.
Okay, so some of the reasons to listen to episode 21 of Hustle and Brews, Chad's why. His why is happiness, and the way that they dive
Yes.
into that is amazing. Like, it just warms me to know that he is
In a
doing
French
this.
accent, it would be happiness.
Did you just say a penis?
No, I said happiness in a French accent.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad. Let's see. One of the other touch points were talking about the things that they were drinking. Chad was drinking vodka and cranberry, which is pretty cool because, again, Little Miami has, it's not a full bar, but it is a limited bar for people that don't want beer. Matt was drinking beer made with actual piñatas.
Yeah, the piñata.
The piñata
So
beer.
the piñata is so. They did not say how many piñatas were harmed in the making of this beer. However, there were piñatas.
Correct. Let's see. Matt is all about the lawn stripes. And so is Chad.
Yeah, so that was really
Very much
interesting.
lawn
No,
stripes.
honestly, this is where I'm going to stop you, Julie.
Okay.
So anybody in the sound of our voice who wants a lawn stripes, you need to go and get into that segment of the podcast. And
Yes.
if you are a
You get excited about that the way that we did.
If you get excited about lawn stripes, just dig into that and just know, like, contact either Brews Traveler or
Chad.
Chad.
Tell them how much you appreciate
about
lawn
these
stripes.
lawn stripes, because I have a professional, as do you. You have we have professionals cut our lawn. I don't care if it's in circles, stripes. I don't care if it looks like in crop circles. I just need
a
it to
Monet painting, but
I need it to, like Monet, Monet in the front yard or anything.
Yep.
I don't need any of that shit. I need it to be short. That's what I need it to be short. I need it to be cut. But if you need the stripes, listen
dig
to this
into
podcast.
this episode. Last note that I think we both have. Definitely listen to this episode to find out all about the sticker sensation.
Yes, sticker
Holy
sensation.
cow.
Yeah. Hopefully, maybe one day we can be such a sensation.
Yeah. Hey, maybe Sticker Mule will sponsor us.
Maybe.
You never know.
You never know.
That's all that I had. Anything else for you?
No, Julie, we got to get out of here.
Let's wrap this shit up. Marco, have an amazing time tomorrow judging the hair competition. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I don't know all the competitors, but between a teacher named Joe and Andy McLeese, you're going to have a hard decision to make. I don't know who else is showing up.
I was honored to be asked, and I understand
yeah.
why I was asked, because, really,
look at your hair. Yeah, absolutely. The best is going to judge the best. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if that's all we have, if you liked what we did tonight, I know this was slightly different than some of our other episodes. Let us know. You can like, review, subscribe, share, comment, follow, friend. I don't know, all the different things on all your favorite podcatchers. We are on social media. We are at Truth Beer Pod everywhere. All of our episodes are also on YouTube, youtube.com/@truthbeerpod. And we have a Patreon account. You can go to you can go to patreon.com/truthbeerpod, or you can go to just truthbeerpod.com. That has links to all of our social media, as well as a link to our Patreon and to our coffee site, where you can send us a one-time donation if you don't want to subscribe. We have a couple ideas for some new Patreon bonus content that we want to put up at the beginning of the year for our amazing, amazing Patreon sponsors. And in the honor of transparency, with the money we're getting from Patreon, I think we're going to go ahead and be able to do a subscription for better audio and video editing software to try to make my life a little easier week after week. And with that, we can hopefully do more video content. We're still trying to figure out the Facebook Live stuff, so that'll also be happening in the new year. And fucking hell, Marco, what are you going to be doing next Tuesday?
Julie, my plan is to get together with you and to talk about all the Cincinnati-based craft beer podcasts from this week.
Sounds excellent. Have a great one, and Happy New Year, Marco.
Happy New Year, Julia.
Cheers.
Cheers.